Hi, welcome back to the Arty Mummy. This is Kathy, and I had another bit of a fail and felt like I was a bit of a fail on the doing of this one. So a couple of things happened. I again had a camera filming failure. It would be so lovely to have somebody to help me with this stuff, but unfortunately I don't, so it's all a big learning curve and I'm still very much learning. So what I'm going to do today is just redo this exercise for you. I did do it on the correct day, but like I said, trouble with filming and editing, and then I was falling asleep trying to edit what I did have, so we're doing our best. Triumphs and fails, you're getting to see them all. So day 16 prompt is begin learning how to create calligraphy today. With a brush pen or paintbrush and ink, a brush pen can be used in different ways to create varying types of stroke. A stroke is the mark made by the brush. The basic idea for calligraphy is that when you are moving the brush down the paper, you use a thick full stroke. When you move the brush up the page, use a thinner stroke. Practice making the different strokes below. For the full stroke, put pressure on your pen, pushing the brush down towards the paper and drag downwards to create a full stroke. So this turned out to be a whole lot harder than it looks, and I had trouble controlling the thickness of line and getting a very even line with a round brush, as it seems to suggest to use. But I will have another go at that for your enjoyment. Watch me have another fail. It's not easy. I think calligraphy is something that must definitely require an awful lot of practice to get sort of consistency, especially with a brush. In the past, I've had a few little goes at calligraphy with some success, but I've been using a calligraphy pen and definitely not a brush before. So here we go again to do some of the bold strokes. So these two here are the ones that are already on the page to demonstrate how it should look. And so we just go with a good pressure and a downward stroke. A bit more paint on the brush, pressure and down, and just to practice that a few times. So mine aren't as wide, so maybe the person uses a wider brush who did the original. And it really does help to make sure that your brush is well loaded. So that's the bold downward stroke with a round brush. Now I also have these, which I haven't tried yet. So I wonder, doesn't appear to be a black in there, but how about a dark blue? So these are Tombow dual brush pens, primary palette, with a brush tip and fine line pen. So let's have a look at these. Get the end off. So on this end we have the fine line brush, and on the other end we have what they say is a fine line pen. It doesn't look all that fine to me, but we shall see. Actually, I might just do a quick little. So yeah, that makes a fairly fine mark. But that's not what we're after today. After this one. So pressure. Let's try a little bit more of an angle. So as with a pen or a marker, it doesn't seem to make a big difference. Like the tip is quite firm. It doesn't seem to make a big difference how much pressure you put on, except that I feel like if I put too much pressure on, I might spoil the nib or the tip. But it definitely does make a much more even mark. So on to the next part. Thin stroke. Use the tip of the brush to create a thin line while moving upwards. You don't need much pressure, and you may have to practice keeping your hand steady. So we've got the demonstration ones on an angle, so we'll do the same. So this is a little more challenging to get a much thinner stroke than the original sort of harder downward stroke. And I'm getting a bit wiggly trying to be really light pressure on it, to use just the very tip. So that is a little challenging to get something that looks nice. Let's go back to our watercolor small round brush and going with the fine upward stroke. I said I get a little bit wiggly. Maybe my hand isn't quite as steady as I'd like it to be, but probably having a little more success than I did the day before yesterday. You have to be careful putting such a light pressure on, because you can end up taking the brush off the paper and ending up with a dotty line instead. But I'm fairly happy with those, I think. Now we can keep down here. Let's try putting them together. So the last one on here says full stroke to thin stroke. Now try combining the two strokes by relieving the pressure once you start to turn the corner. The trick is to start to lift the pressure slightly before you turn the brush. Start by moving down the page with a full stroke, then slowly move up into a thin stroke as you move upwards. So I think this is going to be quite tricky with this, because the only way to get the wider stroke is by having it on an angle, and then more upright to get the thinner stroke with the light pressure. So let's have a try. So down, oh, and it should be all in one stroke. Down and up. Oh, well, this is terrible. I can't sort of change the angle of my hand mid-stroke and have it come out smooth. So I really don't like that. Let's try with the brush. Might go to a fresh bit. So down, lifting the pressure, and up. And that's a lot closer to the demonstration part. I think a well-loaded soft brush is probably important if you're planning to do calligraphy with a brush.
Mommy,
Yes, sweetheart, just a minute.
I know a thing.
Okay, so I've given this a very small amount of practice, and considering the tiny bit of practice, then there's that's not too bad, I think. A little bit better than yesterday's kind of epic fail, or yesterday, day before. Gosh, the time is flying. I've been so busy and so tired. But now we're back to it. Like I said, I did do my exercises on the correct days. I just haven't really been able to upload them, and I've had a bit of filming fail, so let's see if we can actually write something. That's not very good. Now, like I said, getting a well-loaded brush is kind of key. Well, that wasn't too terrible. Like I said, I think the big key with calligraphy is going to be definitely practice and practice and practice some more. And eventually you might be able to get there. So I have noticed there are quite a few little calligraphy lessons dotted here and there through the book. And we'll see how we go with getting a half-decent bit of calligraphy by the end. So don't forget, if you enjoy my videos, please subscribe and like and hit the little notification bell if you haven't already. And if you have, thank you so much. I so appreciate you. Because honestly, I can't believe there's anybody at all that wants to watch me do this. I'm so glad you do. So, thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.